and hope you're all having a fine day. What I'm going to discuss today is something very important in marketing, especially in marketing, but also in sales and other kinds of work where you are generating interest in your product or service. And that includes information services, general services, general products, specific products, doesn't matter. And that is the importance of making sure you reciprocate success. What do I mean by that? It's very simple. When you are doing marketing, you will very often find that the most successful marketing teams are those that work with other people. And when they work with other people, they don't just have a transactional relationship, which is purely commercial and has no other interest at heart. They work with other people, whether they be vendors, partners, advisors, affiliates, referrers, whatever it might be, salespeople, anything. And they take into consideration the work that they're doing, the benefit, the value that they bring to their projects, to their campaigns, to whatever they're marketing, and they will reciprocate success, meaning they will share in the overall success of the efforts. How did they do that? Well, if you are a marketer selling somebody's, or marketing somebody's products or services for a company that's a client of yours, or for a company you work for, either way, what you need to do is measure the amount of success that you have with your campaign. And if you find that your campaign has been very successful, then what you ought to do is give a portion as some kind of bonus or reward to the select partners that you've worked with in any capacity. Partners, by partners I mean, again, affiliates, salespeople, whatever it is, collaborators, advisors, counselors, whatever it is, anybody who's helped you to reach that success. And before your actual campaign is launched, you should have these bonuses established, even if you don't tell them about it. So it can be a surprise bonus. And there's a lot of value in doing that too, especially if you manage to record the giving of the bonus, the receiving of the bonus, the reaction to the receiving of the bonus, etc. But of course, you can also tell them about it ahead of time in order to incentivize them to do a better job and to help you get more success. Either way works fine. There are some niches where the surprise bonus works better. There are other niches where the planned bonus works better. It does depend on your niche. So in the case of like content creators, the surprise bonus tends to work better because you can record a very gripping, moving, emotional reaction to receiving a bonus, especially if the person you're rewarding is getting some kind of significant bonus that may even change the course of their life or just help them immensely, or just in general will be extremely well received and will help you get even more attention than if you gave them a heads up on the bonus, incentivize them to work towards it, and they help you improve your performance, but not necessarily more than the value of getting a raw emotional response recorded on camera to you giving them a surprise bonus for their job well done. That can in fact lead you to more performance improvement by having that additional piece of content available for people to see. Examples of this are any of the charitable channels that give people bonuses for doing good things. Or, probably the top example of this, which I didn't mention first on purpose, would be Mr. Beast, right? His entire channel is based on giving people bonuses, some kind of rewards for participation, or just for being, or involving themselves in some challenge, or whatever it might be. And and nowadays, he'll tell them ahead of time what the reward is, because he's a big enough known name that anything you do with him, if you're the average person, you would expect that there's some kind of potential reward, because that is the nature of his shtick. The way he built his channel, the way he went from zero to hero, was actually not to tell people ahead of time, right? When he would give money to homeless people, or help people who were helping other people, or give a car to somebody random, or give a house to some pizza delivery guy, whatever it was, he didn't tell them ahead of time, hey, if you get here quickly, you can win a house, right? Nowadays, he does incentivize them, to encourage them to, do crazier things, or act faster, or whatever it might be. Because they know it's a Mr. Beast video, therefore there's most likely a reward incentive involved. And so not telling them doesn't necessarily get you a better reaction than telling them ahead of time about the potential bonus. But that's, again, because he's already an established channel. So when he started out using the unincentivized, unannounced bonuses and rewards method. The same goes for other products and services you might be marketing, where, again, you can still record the receiving of the bonus. And I mean, you could be selling lawn chairs. You could be selling, water guns, right? You could be selling balloons. It doesn't really matter. You could be selling online services for web hosting. It doesn't matter, right? Whatever you're selling, you could be selling medical services. You could be selling medical products. You could be selling nutritional services, nutritional products, and on and on and on. You could be selling wedding dresses, or plants, or anything, right? Metal fencing, welding services, right? All of those are ways for you to generate, with a plan ahead of time, to generate bonuses to the people that help you the most to succeed. And why is that important? Well, it gives you multiple opportunities to exploit positively that success and the sharing of that success. Why is that important? It's important because a lot of people have been trained to believe, whether it's true or not, that sharing your success with other people will lead you to more successes. And whether it's true or not, I mean, whether that is in fact the leverage point that will help you be more successful in other things, or whether it's the psychology of your audience that will watch it and think, oh yeah, that's great. They used that strategy of sharing alike, and so they got more successful. So that is a model that clearly works, and therefore I should imitate that model. And they'll either, if you're a content producer, they'll watch more of your content, or if you're selling services or products, they'll imitate that in order to sell more products and services on their own end. Whatever it happens to be, people will believe, at least a certain number of people will believe, that that is the model for success. And again, it doesn't matter if that is actually the model for success or not. Right? It may be that your real model for success, your 85% or more gains, happened without very much addition from your partners and vendors, etc. Or that you don't necessarily need to give a bonus reward to the people who provided you the services, because they view the relationship as purely transactional. Nevertheless, because of the perception of that reward being given and received and reacted to, just that mere perception, again, whether it's true or not, that mere perception will convince other people to buy into whatever you're selling, whether that's giving away free content, urging people to buy your merch, urging people to buy your products or services. There is a massive value in perception. How massive is the value of perception? Well, let's put it this way. You know those dollars or shekels or euros or pounds or yuan or yen that you keep in your pocket or that you have on your credit card? That's called fiat currency, right? Issued by the governments. Has no real value in the sense of there's nothing backing it up except the word of your government. How important is that? Well, when was the last time that you actually, truly, honestly, trusted anything your government or any government said to you? And I don't mean about, whatever issue, specific issue that might be controversial. I mean in general. A lot of people doubt their government from top to bottom. Does that mean that all government is lying all the time? No, it doesn't mean that all the time. However, there is a propensity for people who are politicians to be less than 100% truthful because it's part of their job. And people in government tend to be people who are politicians or people who work for politicians. Therefore, the average public, who has seen more than 3 channels of information since like the Nixon era, have in fact learned to mistrust their government and their politicians. And yet they still use fiat currency because the perception is that this money has value because the government says so. And the government is backed by tanks and guns and bombs and all that stuff. So they have the power, right? They have the power to enforce the laws, whether you like it or not, right? That means that the perception of something completely imaginary and fictitious, which is the value of a fiat currency, is perceived by most people to be a generally stable thing that can be trusted. Even though if you look at anything like, the value of the dollar over the past 100 years, or 110 years, since like 1913, the dollar has decreased in value far more than 99% at this point. Which basically what that says is if you had a dollar, 100 years ago, 110 years ago, it's basically worth nothing now. So it's worth like less than a penny. So, right? So what that means is if you earned $100, 110 years ago, you have the equivalent spending power now of that same $100 now would buy you about a penny of what you could get back then. Think about that. Or, less than $1, because it's more than 99%. So you had $100, you'd get less than $1 worth of goods if you went back in time with the value that the dollar has now. Right? And what does that mean? That means that the government has inflated the number of dollars on the market so much that, $100 then is worth about $1 now, because those $100 have devalued in their purchasing power. So you can get about $1 worth of goods, for what you would have, you can get about $100 worth of goods now for what would have cost you $1 back then. If that makes sense. I know it can be a little bit confusing with the up and down and the direction, but basically, if you went into a store with $1 110 years ago, you could buy the same amount of goods and services that you can go into a store now and spend $100 on. I think that's an easier way for most people to understand it, right? You spent little then compared to what you spend now for the same goods and services. And that is a direct cause and effect of inflation of the price of goods and the purchasing power of the asset that you're using to purchase those goods because of the number of that asset that is available. So when the number of that asset that's available is dramatically increased, the purchasing power of each unit decreases. Now, not to get too into economics, so I'll bring it back to why this is important. Right? This is important because you have to calculate how long your campaigns are for. If they're for a quarter, a half a year, maybe they're longer, maybe they're 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. If you have a 10-year marketing campaign, you have to realize that the value of those rewards and bonuses and of the money that you're raking in as revenues, and that will become your top line and your bottom line, all that is going to decrease significantly within another 10 years' time. Decrease in value, in purchasing power. So you need to plan to increase more than the rate of inflation your net revenues if you want to do more than just stay afloat, if you want to actually grow. And you have to realize that the value of the bonuses you're giving will also decrease unless you increase the amount of bonus you give over time. Because if you give somebody, $1,000 bonus now, in 10 years, that $1,000 bonus will only be worth about $900 of today's money, right? Because whatever it's going to cost, and probably less, but let's just say 90, right? It'll be 900 because it'll decrease, 1% a year, roughly. So in 10 years' time, roughly 10% decrease. But again, it's compounded, so it's even worse than that. But anyway, that is why it's important to reciprocate success, because of the perception, right? Again, the perception of the power of the assets that you're trading, the perception of the value of the bonuses you're giving, the perception of the collaborative efforts and the sharing and sharing alike nature, right? All of that makes a huge difference in terms of how your success will be determined at the end of it all. In terms of, was your success perceived as generated singularly, or was your partnership and collaboration with other people perceived as a broader context? And because human beings are social creatures, most people will want to see collaborative success. Even though they may be impressed by single-handed success, most of us know that even quote-unquote single-handed success is still dependent on other people. I'm not sure if that's continuing from before or after I received that call. But anyway, I hope you understand the lesson that is important to reciprocate success and why it's important and how to do it. It's fairly straightforward. It's, not exactly counterintuitive unless you're very miserly and don't like sharing your success. Humans are social creatures. We like to see people share in their success. People think that it gives them hope that they will also be able to share in the success of something. And if you give them half a chance and you actually reward them for doing something well for you, you'll find that they're more likely to want to help you again in the future. And this can be beneficial for your long-term gains. So, that is what I recommend. And that is what you should consider doing as a marketer of anything. All right, that's it for now. Happy trading. Happy marketing. Cheers.